boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one
Can do it better.
Strike 3. British Boxing Board of Control. You're out of time. 3 weeks is up.
Hey, yo, Stone, time's up.
Conor might not actually apply for the British Boxing Board of Control license, as he has a foreign license, I believe. Perhaps one of them Dillian jobs, one of them Texas jobs. If his next fight is in the UK, he could just apply for a temporary license like a foreign fighter. His dad Nigel authenticated the WBO in the UK back in the day. The British Boxing Board of Control didn't recognise them at the time. He was forced to fight Barkley in America. Plus Barkley had retina issues, which would have perhaps been an obstacle for him to be licensed over here. And Nigel tore the license up, and Conor, in a similar vein, he relinquished his license as allegations of misconduct were upheld. Conor was supposed to attend a hearing but voluntarily relinquished the license. It's been a drawn-out case, which is going to follow Conor for the rest of his career. Probably more than any British athlete I can think of. Rumour has it that Nigel didn't actually tear up his license. It was a cereal packet, apparently, that was destroyed. You'd have to quote Ambrose Mendy on that one, though. Big up Ambrose. So, May 2024, the British Boxing Board of Control and UKAD were successful in appealing against the first ruling by the National Anti-Doping Panel to lift Conor Benn's suspension. It's weird how everybody is suggesting that Conor show evidence to prove to Joe Bloggs down the road in the media that he's innocent when he's been cleared twice. But no one's asking the British Boxing Board of Control to explain why the National Anti-Doping Panel keep ruling against their suspensions. What is it they're doing? So why were they unsuccessful this time? Why were they unable to prove that a doping violation was committed?
I don't know.
Simon Jordan, who won't let the case go. And Nigel Benn mentioned it to Simon Jordan.
People like Dylan White.
Yep.
Tyson Fury.
Yep.
Billy Joe Saunders.
Yep.
You talked about them like once, and it's all like swept under the carpet. You all were just like on Conor. It's like, mate, you're not never giving no breathing space. None of you lot thought about his mental health. You lot didn't give a shit. And that's my son. Mm-hmm. And it's only because I'm a Christian man that I didn't want to just jump on you.
Mm-hmm. And Simon, who probably messed up his boxer shorts at the time, said,
I never said one derogatory thing about your son.
Nice try, Simon. And Nigel kind of let him get off a little there, didn't he?
Yep.
It's not so much derogatory comments aimed towards Conor Benn. It's the volume of content that TalkSport threw at this topic. And Simon was frontlining that volume of content.
Admit it, you overdid it.
Yep.
It was a malicious witch hunt. Nigel even brought up the time when Simon had Robert Smith, the secretary of the British Boxing Board, up there discussing the case.
Yep.
He's never did that for anyone else. And he used Conor Benn basically as live ammunition to pursue his hatred of Eddie Hearn. And that's the truth.
Yep.
Simon Jordan keeps bringing up jurisdiction when responding to Conor being cleared. Eddie Hearn, who I suspect is using a little bit of chicanery, says it's not jurisdiction. And look, perhaps the verbiage that has cleared Conor Benn might not say jurisdiction, but the evidence does point to what else could it be. The board could be open to a lawsuit, loss of earnings. The kid's been cleared.
Yep.
Conor Benn's looking to return to the ring now, so he's had his ongoing cases with the British Boxing Board of Control and UKAD around his adverse findings last year. Would you ever be interested? Will you ever maybe entertain a fight with him?
Yeah, before all that happened, he was definitely a name, to be reckoned with. I've always wanted to go overseas and fight somebody in their backyard, in their territory.
As you can hear, Barrios has always wanted the Benn fight before he beat Ugas and became WBC 147-pound champion. And he's prepared to travel to the UK to make it happen. It's a good payday for him, and it's a good opportunity to make fights, in theory, with some of the PBC fighters, with them having limited dates at Amazon and having to outsource their commodities. Ben Shalom, he looks hungry to make EUBANK versus Benn, because word around a campfire is that it's unlikely his contract with Sky will be renewed. No stars have emerged from the Olympians that Sky have purchased from the two girls, Lauren Price, Aginstall, Fraser Clark, or Ben Whittaker. The last thing Ben Shalom needed was Joe Gallagher getting on his soapbox how badly boxer have treated Natasha Jonas. The only world champion he had amongst the men was Chris Billion Smith. He's took a little tumble. And I think now they'll be keen to make EUBANK versus Benn even if they're not the official promoter or they have to share the platforms to make the fight.
Boxing. Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
So what's happening for Shakur in February? George Kambosos just signed to Matchroom. He's pushing for the fight. Tank Davis, he said if Shakur rematches Edwin Dos Santos and defeats him, which he's did already, then he'll fight him in a unification. He's saying that Shakur won't go near that guy again. Kind of makes me wonder why Tank isn't fighting Edwin Dos Santos if he believes he's such a challenge. Why is he fighting Lamont Roach? I honestly can't think of anyone who was asking for that fight. Perhaps the Edwin Dos Santos fight would be an easier sell. I'm not going to call out all the people who have avoided Shakur because it's going to look like I have this agenda where I'm pro Shakur Stevenson, and I'm not. I don't like a lot of his performances at lightweight, but his rivals are ducking the smoke. That's just the truth. It would be pretty grim if George Kambosos was his only option to defend that WBC strap when he's lost 3 out of his last 4. Arguably, he's lost 4 out of the 4. The Maxie Hughes decision, in a lot of people's eyes, could have went the other way. But they will want an opponent lined up ASAP if they're to fight on that Riyadh season card in February. Now, Floyd Schofield is an option. What's happening with that? They're talking like they want smoke. His dad especially. Will Golden Boy let Floyd Schofield take that fight? Going off that last performance though, he looked awful. Got the W. It was a learning fight. But right now, that's what Shakur looks like he has available to him. Either Schofield Jr. or George Kambosos. One of them looking a little too old and shop-worn. The other is looking a little young, fresh and green. So here we go. I got it if you want it. That clout chasing shit, we on it. Floyd Kid Austin Schofield. You said if Cepeda ducks, where next? I sent Eric Gomez an email asking him to let us fill in. And winner fights at William Cepeda. Shakur, he replies, come on, February 22, let's do it. Tell Oscar let's get it done. Is Oscar going to let you fight me, or is he going to bluff me like you did with your stablemate at Oscar De La Hoya? Reach out to Turkey, let's get this going. Classic clout chasing. Floyd really struggled with the gatekeeper Giron last time out. He was down in the 11th and he was hurt several times. Didn't know how to fight inside. Not that that will be relevant against Shakur, but there's no promoter who's going to let you fight for a world title on the back of that performance after all what's been invested in Floyd Schofield. And when I saw him and his dad on the video, neither one believed what they were saying. They kept looking at each other, hoping the other wouldn't contradict the other by saying they don't really believe what they're saying about either fighting Shakur or Tank Davis. Ridiculous. In the build-up to the Giron fight, Schofield was talking about Stevenson. I was thinking, why isn't he focused on Giron? And I said, this kid is too clumsy to fight Shakur Stevenson. No disrespect, but at this moment in time, just not ready. And then when you see that performance, you have to ask yourself, what entitles you to try and multitask? Calling out opponents on the week of the fight. He's not good enough to do that. Some fighters can do it. He can't. He needs full focus on what he's doing, or he's going to get knocked out. Before he fights a top 10 opponent, he'll get knocked out. And his dad's got a lot to say. Doing some good self-promotion there, no doubt. But am I to believe his dad is going to coach him to beat Tank and Shakur Stevenson? Because how he handled the corner in that last fight was nothing to write home about. It wasn't impressive at all. Is he a slugger or a boxer? You know, Teofimo Lopez, he's deep into his career. He's a 2-weight champion. And even him and his old man realize they need some additions in coaching. And they've hooked up with Eddie Reynoso. Now it looks like Ronnie Shields is part of Team Schofield. That's good. But they need to hand over the reins to Ronnie. Quick.
Knowing the ins and outs because I'm in it, I have to say it's the fighters who are killing the sport. People try to blame the promoters or the managers, the trainers. No, it's the fighters. I was one, and I can tell you that if my camp urged me to fight someone and I wanted to fight somebody else, we were going to fight who I wanted to fight. What? The fighters today don't think they're getting paid enough or they're scared of taking an L.
So let me understand this. Oscar makes that statement this week. The very next day, Cepeda gets a hand injury and is out of the Shakur fight. And now you've got Schofield putting himself forward to fight Shakur Stevenson. Are you going to allow Floyd Schofield to dare to be great? Or is it just some bullshit you're peddling with this dare to be great? Fighters don't want fights. It would be burning Lou DiBella to have to co-promote Kambosos with Eddie Hearn. But at this stage here, he should be relieved that Eddie would take on that burden. Kambosos, no belts. As I said, you could argue he's lost 4 out of his last 4. And I didn't think Matchroom would have signed him to pitch him in at 135, first fight against Shakur Stevenson. Last time out, he was brutalized by Lomachenko. I thought he would have campaigned at 140. And I'm not sure if Eddie wants Kambosos as Shakur food. I've got a feeling he's setting up Kambosos for Dalton Smith food. Perhaps Jack Catterall food. But the short list seems to be George Kambosos or Floyd Schofield. Let me know in the comment section who you think should get the gig. Or if you have any alternative names, let me know.
Boxing. Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
GALAL YAFAI, 31 years of age. Sonny Edwards, 28 years of age. GALAL has a record of 8 wins, no defeats, no draws, 6 inside the distance. Sonny has a record of 21 wins, 1 loss, no draws, 4 inside the distance. Sonny is a former IBF flyweight champion, a belt that he lost in 2023 to Bam Rodriguez. Bam is currently 21-0, 14 inside the distance, 2-weight champion, arguably a pound-for-pound top 10 fighter. That's Sonny's only loss of his career. GALAL is a former Olympic gold medalist in 2020 at Tokyo. In 2015, both men met in the Amateur Boxing Association final, and Sonny won a tight decision. Not much clean work going on. I'm not a big fan of Sonny's boxing. He is a good defensive fighter, however, but he doesn't commit to putting full impact in a lot of his punches, which sometimes makes it hard to score. You're wondering, did it kind of glance off the defense, off the gloves, or did it land and connect as a proper scoring punch? Now, GALAL is more aggressive, but he's no picnic to watch either. So I think the styles could possibly clash, just like they did in the Amateur Boxing Association final in 2015. It was a hard watch. Sonny is going into the fight with a new trainer. He started the camp with no trainer. He left Grant Smith, who he was with for 10 years at the Steel City. Grant Smith, dad of Dalton Smith, the budding 140-pound contender. Sonny seemed to be dismissing the absence of Grant Smith, who took him to that world title against Smith-Alani at the York Hall in 2021. I don't think this fight is going to be a joke, and starting the camp without a trainer, not ideal. It's not ideal. When I was weighing up Sonny Edwards versus Bam Rodriguez, I thought Bam had this exceptional reach for a flyweight. 67-inch reach to Sonny's 60-inch reach. But what I've realized since is Sonny has an exceptionally short reach amongst the top 112-pounders. GALAL has a 68-inch reach, so he'll have an 8-inch reach advantage. And that is kind of swaying which way I was going to pick, if I am going to pick. I wasn't going to pick because I do have a bias against Sonny's style. And sometimes I'm probably not giving him credit where he's effective. I'm admitting that. GALAL is the bigger puncher. I have a feeling if he gets frustrated, he's just going to look for one big shot, and that could be to his detriment. This is a hard one to pick, but Birmingham are waiting for this one. That's GALAL's hometown. There's the resurgence of the Birmingham fight scene right now. GALAL's trainer, Rob McCracken, was a light middle, and he had a rowdy fan base he did from the terraces in St Andrews. I'll say no more, because they got a little naughty at times, didn't they? I remember one battle of Birmingham. You had the middleweights, Wayne Elcock, Matthew Macklin. They had their highly anticipated clash, which Macklin won. You had Pat Cowdell, the featherweight, talented, took Salvador Sanchez the distance, British European champion. He actually fought at the Resorts World Arena where Sonny and GALAL are fighting this Saturday, but it didn't work out very well. He was knocked out in round by the great Azuma Nelson. Tim Witherspoon was on that card as well. There was another name I was thinking of from Birmingham, but it's just slipped my mind. That's the one. Owen Moran. I discovered Owen Moran from Mike Tyson. He was talking about Owen Moran and his untypical, swarming, two-handed attacks. How untypically British it was. And Tyson was amazed by Owen Moran when he was speaking to Harry Carpenter. He was from Birmingham. He fought a whole lot in America because that's where he would have made his money. Against the likes of Adwal Gas and Abe Attell and battling Nelson. He fought in Birmingham a lot and at the National Sporting Club.
Boxing. Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
So Katie Taylor hasn't defended her lightweight title since 2022 against Karen Carvajal. Been a minute. Her last 3 fights have been at 140. and the WBC are talking about stripping Katie of the belt. And even before the decision has been made, there's talks of Amanda Serrano taking on the interim champion, Caroline Dubois, for the vacant belt. I was hoping that Katie would actually fight Caroline Dubois. That's what I want to see. I think Caroline would prefer Katie Taylor because she doesn't believe Katie hits as hard as Amanda, and stylistically she might think she can get over on Katie, who's now 38, although Amanda's no spring chicken, she's 36. Either fight is very difficult for Caroline because she's inexperienced at 23 years of age, whether it's Amanda or Katie, but a great opportunity nonetheless for Caroline.
Boxing, beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
Ben Shalom and Boxer will promote a show at the Exhibition Centre, Liverpool, December the 14th, which will be headlined by the WBC welterweight champion, Natasha Jonas. She takes on Ivana Habazin. And on the undercard, Lauren Price will take on Bexy Mateus, defending her WBA title. And if all goes to plan, and both ladies defend their belts successfully, they'll unify in 2025. And they both got a lot to say.
It's come around very, very quickly, Lauren, but Bexy Mateus, she's unbeaten and she looks dangerous on paper. These are often the sort of fights where things can go wrong. I know that won't be in your mind, but you've got to keep your eyes on the job if you want to set up this fight with Natasha Jonas next year.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I got to get through December 14th. I'm fully confident. I'm focused on that. I believe I'll get our win on December 14th, and then we can look forward to getting it on between the pair of us when we get that win on December 14th. It's a massive fight for the British fans. I respect Tash. I think it's a great fight for the pair of us. I'm excited.
Do you believe that she wanted the fight?
No, otherwise it'd be happening now in December.
I'm going to start something I shouldn't have here, but you get your chance to respond to that. Questions of why it's not happening now, but it will happen next year.
Yeah, I think Lauren wasn't really ever in my plans, if I'm honest. The whole idea was to either rematch Michaela Mayer and then try and get the fight with Katie. Like I say, I'm contracted to fight Lauren. I believe I beat Lauren. And yeah, it's a good fight. I've got lots of respect for her. She's won a lot of things as an amateur and as a professional, but I'm a different kettle of fish.
Lauren Price is 30. Natasha Jonas is 40 years of age. And Natasha has been on one fight a year since she left Matchroom in 2022. Lauren's only had one fight this year, but she was very active last year. I just got a feeling Lauren will beat Natasha. Not necessarily a better fighter than Natasha, but timing is everything.
Boxing, beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
Cameron and Claressa went back and forth. Cameron pulled her card on all the N-words she calls out. Keith Thurman, Jake Paul, Sean Porter, Gennady Golovkin. She wanted to fight Eddie Hearn. Claressa fired back, do you want to be the fourth knockout on her record? Because Cameron was saying you got 15 fights and 3 knockouts. That's to say that's a low knockout percentage. And Cameron came back and said the 6-1 fighter who put her on her ass, who knocked her out, and then she ran to her car to get her knife. Not having the grace to let Katie and Amanda enjoy the spotlight for their work. She speaks about the 2 million viewership she did, I'm assuming against Savannah Marshall. And then she mentioned how Katie and Amanda's first fight only did 1.5. Cameron came back and said their fight was seen by 50 million people. Claressa retorted, they didn't come to see them two. Perhaps not, but they were the 2 most relevant women boxers in 2024 to be on such a stage. They weren't just token women being put on the show to fill some kind of equality quota. No, they've built this fight from 2022 and took the momentum into the rematch. Something that Claressa should have done and Savannah Marshall should have done from their fight in 2022. But since that fight, Claressa's had some fights, but they haven't been against names that have piqued the radar. No one's been interested in her fights since she fought Savannah Marshall, mainly because they were supposed to rematch, and Claressa spoke about only if we do it in America, when there clearly isn't the market there from Top Rank, the PBC, and if it's not on them 2 networks, where are you going to put it in America? No, the rematch makes sense in the UK. That's the country that has been promoting women's boxing for the past 8 or 9 years. And boxing is a what have you done for me lately affair. If you look at Katie Taylor's last 4 fights compared to Claressa's last 4, there's only one woman who's flagship in the sport, and that's Katie Taylor. And that's no disrespect to Claressa. She deserves her accolades and her props. Amanda or Katie would never invade Claressa's parade. like she did to them. But Claressa, as far as friends and fans are concerned, is always the victim and everyone else is hating. You know, Claressa wants equal pay in boxing. Her and her fan base are so irrational. So if a man is boxing and he only has a viewership of 500 and Claressa has a viewership of 2 million, as she told us, he should get paid the same as you? Or does that only work when she's being disadvantaged? Talking about equality for women, but as soon as some women get some shine, she invades the spotlight. Some women talk about men being misogynistic when they themselves have nothing but contempt for their fellow women when they're moving forward in their life. Pretty fucked up when you think about it. So our argument is that Amanda and Katie piggybacked off Jake Paul and Mike Tyson's gig. All women piggyback off some man's gig somewhere along the line. That's how they get on, whether it's a promoter or another boxer. Christy Martin piggybacked off Mike Tyson and Don King's gigs. Katie Taylor piggybacked off Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua's gigs. Amanda is piggybacking off Jake Paul's gigs right now, before she used to work with Lou DiBella. Claressa tried to holler at Al Heyman and got crickets back. So it's not like she isn't trying to do the same thing. Because if she was on the PBC, she would have to get on the back of an Errol Spence's gig or a Deontay Wilder's gig back then. That's what she would have had to do. Everything swings back to Claressa. Everything. Couldn't let Amanda and Katie enjoy their spotlight. Well, they are enjoying it. Like, Katie hasn't responded to none of it. Amanda did a little. So the 2 million views that she done in Britain, but then insisted the rematch had to be in America where she's never done 2 million views. It doesn't make sense, you know, like, she needs to grow up a little. She needs to mature. She's a big woman now. And let's look at that 2 million views. She'd probably say, yeah, they all came to see me. They didn't come to see Savannah Marshall, even though the fight was in England. Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano added to the credibility of that event. They're 2 elite women's boxers. Yeah. The 2 million that Claressa and Savannah did was because the fight was highly anticipated between the two of them. There's no free lunches here. Most of the people came to see Mike and Jake Paul. We know that. But there's no free lunches here. It's called teamwork. Not all 98,000 people went to Wembley to see Josh Warrington. He bought 10,000 of that 98,000 from Leeds to London. Anthony Joshua bought most of the crowd there. I'm sure he appreciates Josh's contribution and any other fighter who had a fan base who bought tickets. I'm looking at the card now. It was an all-female lineup. Caroline Dubois, Lauren Price, Michaela Meyer, Alicia Baumgardner, Savannah Marshall, and Claressa herself. They put on a big spread. If they didn't put on that big spread, there wouldn't have been 2 million views on there. If it was Claressa against the next opponent she's going to fight New Year, and you took 4 or 5 of them names I mentioned off that card, it's not doing 2 million views because Claressa Shields is on there. It's not. Amanda and Katie never came out and said most of the people are coming to see us. They never said that. So just like she's saying the crowd came to see Mike and Jake Paul, when Claressa fought in London, the crowd came to see her. But they came to see Savannah Marshall. They came to see Michaela Meyer, Alicia Baumgardner, Caroline Dubois, and maybe even April Hunter. It is what it is. Now let's give Claressa the benefit of the doubt. Let's say 50% of that crowd came to see her. There's still another 50% to account of people they want to see there. It's not all about you. It's teamwork.
Teamwork, yes, y'all, teamwork.
Boxing
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.